potential customers. There's often a lot of hotels in bigger markets, and there's a lot of comparison happening. So at this stage, I kind of consider this nurturing the lead into that next phase. And we have the third and final phase, which is to incentivize a user to complete a purchase. In this stage, we want to motivate them to action and secure the booking. So this is where the conversion is actually completed. And there's actually a lot of people that could argue for a fourth stage, which I'm particularly fond of this, especially in relation to the hotel industry. That fourth stage would be brand loyalty, renewal of interest, and making a second purchase. So much of this, I would say, is done on social media by engaging the user in ongoing conversation with the brand. This could also be done through rewards programs, email marketing. It's about finding a way to stay in contact with someone after they've booked and trying to convert them a second time. So we've talked a little bit about this multi-channel approach. So how do you plan a budget according to this multi-channel approach? So I gave a very common scenario here that we see a lot. This hotel example has a goal of increasing transient bookings, going after meetings and event business, and building brand awareness. And their budget is $3,500 per month. So my recommendation to increase transient bookings, which is their primary goal, is to test part of their budget on search, Google search ads, and test part on meta search. And the reasoning behind that is on meta search, we're going to capture people in the consideration stage. And on search, we're going to capture people in the booking stage. So the search ads would be a mix of both brand and prospecting campaigns. So brand would be obviously bidding on your brand terms. And then prospecting is going to be more location-based hotels in Miami, Florida. And this is also assuming that we can bid on brand terms. There are instances where we can't do that. Obviously, in the instance of a branded hotel, if they have corporate already doing their brand term marketing, but in most cases, especially for independent hotels, we're going to be bidding on their brand terms. So the other reason that I wanted to include meta search in this scenario is because we can bid up or down on certain specific need periods. So let's say this hotel struggles with Sunday through Thursday transient business, which is also something that we hear a lot. We can optimize for those booking dates on meta search. So I wanted to include that as a solution to their budgetary needs here. And the idea would be to test this budget split for 3 months. And at that point, we can determine if meta search or if Google search ads are more prolific and kind of consolidate and adjust funds accordingly. I also included some budget on either social or Google discovery ads to support the awareness goal. The Google discovery ads, I think they just renamed them to demand gen ads, but they are still kind of a top of funnel marketing tactic. So I included budget to support their awareness goal. And then I also included a breakout of a $500 search campaign for meeting and events keywords. So paid search is usually the kind of bread and butter effort of Google ads. Something also to keep in mind is that those Google budgets get broken down to a daily budget. That's the way that the Google platform, forces us to do budgets, is on a daily spend basis. So if you have a budget of $500 a month, that's only about $17 a day. And then to break it down even further, if say the cost per click is $1.50 per click, that's about 11 clicks that you can reasonably expect in a day at a $17 a day budget. So that's a good way to kind of work back and see if the budget that you're applying to a platform or to an ad type is going to get you to the goals that you want to achieve. Are you okay with 11 clicks a day? Are you expecting more? It kind of helps you align your expectations with what the campaign could possibly produce. So also, when doing a budgeting exercise, something that is major to keep in mind is to consider seasonality. With certain hotels have certain seasonal periods where they're up or they're down. Typically, hotels tend to bid up during times when there's more market demand to capture that market demand. So keep in mind months with different seasonalities. All right, so we talked about kind of building a comprehensive marketing plan. You've allocated budgets. Let's jump into kind of the meat and potatoes of our conversation today and talk about campaign ROI. All right, so
maybe it travels.
I think there's someone, is there someone not on mute? If you guys could mute yourselves, please. Thank you. All right, so jumping into our next slide, why do we measure ROI? The overall goal of most hotels is to drive ROI. Hotels need to sell rooms. So I feel like the term ROI gets thrown around a lot, and not just in the digital advertising world, but in the business industry as a whole. So let's kind of start from our baseline and talk about what it is and why we measure it. So on the screen here, we have just a really basic formula to determine ROI. ROI is simply a measurement of your campaign's profits or losses. We're talking about return on investment. Measuring ROI helps to determine the effectiveness of your strategies. And seeing that ROI is a kind of general term, there is a slightly more specific calculation that's related to ROI, but different. Return on ad spend. Return on ad spend can give us deeper insight into the effectiveness of a particular campaign, whereas ROI is that total marketing investment. So return on ad spend is the return, specifically the return of a budget allocated to a specific ad. So I would say when it comes to hotel industry ROI, an ROI of about 5 to 1 is typically an industry standard. It's important to note that ROI is not the only metric that we should be looking at. KPIs to prioritize differ by platform. They also differ by ad type, and they differ by goal. So if we are talking about a Google display campaign, there may be a return on ad spend associated, but typically the main metric associated with that ad type is going to be something more along the lines of impressions delivered. So I do think it's important to make sure that your KPIs are specific and relevant to the ad type that you're running, and also specific and relevant to the goal that you're looking for that ad type to drive. So we've kind of started to talk about the importance of ROI, but I do think that we should take a pause here because beyond measuring your ROI, to measure your ROI, you have to have specific tracking mechanisms in place to support measurement. So that will take us into our next slide here. So how do we track ROI? So on the last screen, we had that formula for measuring ROI. Luckily, most of the platforms do it for us if we have the appropriate mechanism set up. So step 1 to prioritizing ROI is making the time investment to get set up to track properly. Here at Vizergy, we use a combination of Google Tag Manager and Adobe Analytics tracking tags to power reporting into our Vizergy marketing system. We assist with getting these placed when you have our services. So if you want to make things super easy on yourself, you can build a website with us, sign up for our distribution services, sign up for our paid media, and we will place these tags for you all the way through from your website homepage to your booking purchase confirmation page in your booking engine, no problem. Makes your life a lot easier. If you do not have Vizergy's services, the ability to add tags and track revenue throughout the entire booking process can vary by property. And again, that is ranging from whether they're independent to branded. So for branded hotels, usually corporate can provide some sort of UTM or tracking code capability to use on ad URLs for revenue tracking. I know Hyatt has a link building tracking parameter tool. I think Hilton uses something called an MCID that can be added to the ad URLs. For independent properties, it's usually going to be the Google Tag Manager setup that they use. I will say and kind of warn with that, for independent properties, when selecting a booking engine provider, I always recommend that you ask upfront if you can install third-party tracking tags in their booking engine. Some booking engine providers do not allow it. We have run into that for clients where we are not able to place Google tags. And you will have a very hard and or impossible time attributing revenue to ad campaigns in that scenario. So tracking is crucial. We're going to go ahead to our next slide here. So tracking is crucial. And once you can track, you can establish a baseline of performance data, which is usually about 3 months worth. So the reason that we want to track is because then we can optimize. And this is really where we make the magic happen. So we can make strategic decisions based on prior performance data to focus on things like keywords, ad creatives, audiences, really hone in on what produces the best results. For social media, this could look like A/B testing audiences. This could look like running different ad copy variations and testing those against each other to see what resonates best with your audience. For Google, this can mean checking revenue production by keyword, adding negative keywords, evaluating the effectiveness of an ad type. We'll see some of that in the example that I provide next, the case study that I have for Google Ads. And for meta search, there are multiple OTA platforms that those ads get shown on. So we can pare that down to OTA platforms where we see the best return. If we're seeing the highest return on Google Hotel ads, that helps inform our future decisions. So there are so many applications of this data to inform our decision-making that we use every single day. Like I said, I have a specific scenario that I'm going to tell you all about next, and I'm actually very, very excited about this case study. So, how do we drive ROI on Google? So, I have a case study to share from a real Vizergy client. So, we inherited this property's Google campaigns, and they were producing 0 ROI, which is obviously not ideal. This is a boutique art-themed hotel in Dallas. And I think a lot of us can agree, Dallas is a very large and expensive hotel market. In comparison to competitors, this hotel had a relatively low budget. There are other hotels in the Dallas market that are spending easily 3 to 4 times their budget. So it's really hard for them to compete on budget alone. This property had a brand search campaign, a prospecting search campaign, and Google discovery ads when we inherited their account. So here are the steps that we took to get this moving in a better direction. These are some of the optimization decisions that we made to help increase their ROI. Number one, first thing was to shut down their discovery campaign due to 0 production. When a property is struggling with very low ROI and has a low budget in a competitive market, we generally want to pump that money into search campaigns because that is where we're going to see the best, most immediate return. So number 2, we determined that Dallas hotel keywords were way too broad. They were blowing through budget with no return. So we tightened down our keyword focus to downtown Dallas keywords, more specifically in their location campaign. And number 3, we reviewed the list of all of the keywords that ran in 2023 to determine the highest revenue producers, and we used those in the campaign for 2024 since we knew they had a proven ROI. So one of the optimization, one of the reasons for collecting this data and for making optimizations is do what you know works. So we knew that those keywords had produced revenue in 2023. So we used that to inform our decision-making when selecting keywords for their 2024 campaign. We also rewrote the ad copy to focus on features and benefits of the property, including their unique value proposition as an art-focused hotel. Number 5, once we started seeing some production from their search campaigns, we tested a Performance Max campaign, which has been highly effective for them. It has yielded an average ROI of about 3 so far this year, with some months as high as a 5 ROI. So overall, in June 2024, they were at an average ROI of 4.3 year to date, versus 2023, where they had an ROI of 0. So I think this is a great example of some of the very detailed optimization work that we can do based on data and based on seeing ROI numbers. Not every hotel has a glamorous, mind-blowing ROI for their budget, but in this highly competitive market, this property has seen a 7,000% increase in revenue from their Google ads so far this year in 2024. So that is a win. This has been a constant optimization effort, but we followed the data story based on ROI and other data, and now the bookings are coming in. So we have met our goal and will continue to optimize. So now that we've talked about some Google ROI optimizations, let's talk about social media optimizations. So I have another case study for us to review. How do we drive ROI on social media? So for this case study, this is a resort property that we have on the beach here in Florida. Last month in June, they saw a 14.2 return on ad spend from a social campaign that we ran for them. So let's get into what we are doing here that works. We have been running their social for a while. The difference maker for 2024 is that they finally installed their Facebook pixel on the website. Thank goodness. So we've been asking them to do that for a while. They finally were able to accomplish that on the website side, and that it opens up a whole new world for us. So we ran one ad campaign for them in the month of June, and within that ad campaign, we had 3 ad sets. One of them was retargeting. One of them was targeting a family and resort interest audience. And the third audience segment was running to Florida residents only with a Florida resident promotional discount offer. So overall, they saw a 14 ROI in June from this one campaign with the 3 different ad sets. So let's get into what's working well here. Number 1, they are using good quality video creative. My coworker, Jeremiah, who did our first week of the series, he has a saying. It's something like, if you're not going to use good video, don't use video. So I wish I could play the video for you, but we are choosing to keep the hotel name private for the sake of the client. But basically the video is a family having fun floating down the hotel's lazy river. And honestly, it's an emotional appeal. It's evocative of, wow, doesn't that look relaxing? Or, someone might watch it and think, wow, I want to have fun with my family like that this summer. So it's really compelling video content that they've invested in. And I think that is a huge part of our success here. The second thing that's going well with this ad, so we know from prior ads that these audience segments are successful. We are using prior learnings again to inform our current decisions. And these audience segments are segments that we had run in the past where we saw a good return. And we were judging return by some key metrics, not necessarily return on investment, because we couldn't see that because we weren't tracking with the Facebook pixel yet. But based on, click-through rate metrics and things like that, these audience segments had performed successfully in the past. So number 3, to kind of segue from number 2, I was talking about the pixel. So the other thing that we are doing well here is that we're using the pixel to track revenue. And we are using it to run the ads to non-converting website visitors from the site within the past 60 days. So one of the audience segments is a retargeting ad set. And you can actually see in the screenshot, in the screen share from Facebook Ads Manager, the retargeting audience, that third one on the bottom there on the slide, had the most purchases and the most revenue. So they had 11 total purchases and an about an $18,000 revenue from the retargeting ad set alone. So, I cannot state enough how effective retargeting campaigns can be on social media, and the Facebook Pixel makes that possible. So utilize your Facebook Pixel. Get your Facebook Pixel installed and then utilize it. And then number 4, so something else that we are doing that you can kind of see in the ad creative here is that we are using a promotion in each ad, and that is to build urgency and to incentivize previous non-converters to make that booking. So these strategies are all helping to maximize ROI, and they're getting an amazing return. The property is obviously very happy with their results. So we hope to continue this moving forward. This was, excuse me, this was June of 2024, the first month where we were able to get this data from their pixel. And we only hope to continue using this data moving forward to improve their campaigns even more. So these are all some great strategies to help maximize ROI on social media. Switching gears here a little bit, I want to talk briefly about metasearch. So I didn't include a metasearch case study here because I was worried we were going to run out of time, and I wanted to save some time for questions. I feel like I probably could have squeezed it in. We have a little bit of time here. But on the topic of metasearch, a couple things to note. Metasearch is an increasingly important tool to maximize your visibility to guests who are actively searching. I think we've really seen an increase in metasearch in the past 3 to 5 years with Google Hotel ads. It's obviously a very important component of a hotel's overall distribution strategy. It's a very important step in that consideration and comparison stage of the sales funnel. Something big with metasearch that we kind of see problems with a lot is rate parity with OTAs. I think we kind of know from our own user behavior that the user will typically go with the lowest rate. So, if the user has an option of where to book, consider what channel mix is most beneficial for you to sell rooms. And what we often see is that direct booking is usually the most valuable. So just consider your channel mix. And that usually includes, that with metasearch, we typically see a strong ROI. So this is not scientifically based, but I think typically I would say we could see about a 15-to-1 ROI with our metasearch campaigns. So I think it's a really strong tool to be able to make sure that you have that visibility in the comparison stage. So I wanted to leave you all with some key takeaways. We talked about using a multi-channel approach to reach customers at all points of the sales funnel, setting yourself up properly to track ROI, understanding the most important KPIs per platform and per ad type. And, the number one thing, other than get your Facebook Pixel installed and use it, is use data to make strategic optimization decisions. So, I wanted to make sure we left some time for questions. So we've got a while for questions. So I hope you guys have some.
Yeah, we've got a couple questions in the chat here, but I'll definitely, I hope a couple more roll in. So great information, Anna. Thank you so much. You covered a lot. So first question I've got down here, what strategies have you implemented to adapt to the changes brought by Apple's ATT framework? And how do you measure or report on ad performance given the reduced access to the IDFA data?
I am not familiar with that IDFA data or the ATT framework.
No worries. That might be a bit more of a question for our
Sounds
hosting
a
and admin
technical.
people. Yeah, a little bit more technical than what Anna and I are capable of answering today, but we will definitely take this to our team and
Yeah,
see if we can get some clarity on that to provide for you.
that's a great question. Maybe next week. Next week we have Kyle, who is our VP of IT and development, and he is an absolute wealth of knowledge. So for any technical questions, I would say save that, hold on to it for next week and refer to Kyle. And I'm sure that he can get you an answer. He knows everything about everything.
For sure. Another good question here. Do you have a best practice for optimizing on a vanity website on top of a brand website?
That's a good question. So I think what the question is asking is that you want to optimize for the vanity site and optimize for the brand site. Does that sound to you, Jen, like what they're asking?
I think so. Probably when you've got a brand site to compete with, how are you helping your performance with the vanity site?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say figure out which site you want to prioritize traffic to. If in terms of a vanity site, we do have an easier time tracking. We do have an easier time tracking things that happen on your website. Obviously, if it's a vanity site for a brand, we're not going to be able to track that conversion all the way through the booking engine. So say you've got a vanity site for a Marriott website, we can still use the pixel on the vanity site to retarget people, like say for social or even Google tags, we can install that on the vanity site. Whereas we wouldn't be able to do that on the brand site. Brand sites typically do not allow any third-party tags anywhere on the site at all. So a vanity site is it's a great asset in that we can at least install tracking tags on the vanity site. So if you want to prioritize traffic to the vanity site, that is the ad URL that we would use for as the landing page for all of the ads. And then we can optimize based on tags that we can add to your vanity site.
Awesome. All right, we've got a couple budget related questions here. So I'm kind of loop them all into one, but what's a good rough minimum spend amount to get into paid search in order to be effective? And I guess we can look at this from like a single channel as well as a multi-channel approach, like what our recommended minimums would be.
Sure. A rough minimum spend to get into paid search. This is very rough because I have so many follow-up questions to that question. You know, what size is your hotel? Where is your hotel located? What's your ADR? How many clicks are you expecting to get in a month? It's really hard to say because it's a very budgeting is a very consultative process. It's a two-way process. It's, we need to understand what exactly your goals are. So I would say maybe for paid search, I mean, it also depends on the bulk of campaigns that you're running. So it depends on, is this just a brand and location campaign? Is this brand, location, and you want paid search ads for weddings and events and your restaurant? It really is hard to answer without more information, but I would say, our single channel minimum here at Vizergy is going to be $1,000 for a single channel. So that may be a good entry point. And I mean, I still feel like that's kind of low, but that could be a good entry point. And then once your ads are running, optimize from there because you can see how much your average cost per click is. And you can kind of back into that equation of the daily budget. Like I mentioned earlier, you can say like, okay, if you have $1,000 a month for a 30-day month, that's about $33 a day. So depending on how much your cost per click is, if your cost per click is $1 per day, then, and you have $33, I'm sorry, your cost per click is your daily budget is $33 a day and your cost per clicks are $1. that means you'll get 33 clicks about 33 clicks per day. Once you hit that daily budget, Google is not going to show your ads anymore. So you need to decide if you're okay with about 33 clicks a day. That's, essentially 33 clicks a day to your website, 33, additional website users a day. So is that metric aligned with the results that you're looking for? Of those 33 people that come to the site, only a small percentage of that are going to complete a booking. So if you can track ROI and like understand what that conversion rate is, the rate of people that come to your site from the ads, the rate at which they're booking, you can kind of understand if that is enough traffic. So I would say, maybe start off conservative if you have a lower budget, that's approved, and then you can kind of work up from there. Don't undercut your campaigns by giving them too little budget. I would say that's a big mistake that we see, not necessarily a mistake, but a big constraint that we see. There's also metrics that you can look at for brand campaigns in Google, like impression share. So once you establish a rough minimum spend, you start running with that. You can take a look at auction insights in Google, and it will tell you how you stack up compared to other people bidding on your brand terms. So say if OTAs, or we've even seen Airbnb bidding on hotel brand terms, you can see how you rank compared to other people that are bidding on your brand terms. So if your impression share is very low and you're not winning that impression share, you're probably going to want to increase that budget. So you're showing at a higher top of page rate than OTAs, than Airbnb, than anyone else that's booking on your brand terms. So I feel like that was a long-winded answer for a basic question, but it's always a hard one to answer. And I feel like with the webinar this week, I was talking to Jen earlier and I was saying, I feel like what Jeremiah talked about in week 1 with the ADA scan stuff is very black and white. I feel like what Trish talked about with SEO is pretty black and white too. And then you get to paid media, which is one big jumble of testing and optimizing and gray area. So I felt like, it was a little bit tougher of a conversation to have today because there are so many variables. So with a question like that, I think it speaks to the fact that it really is going to just absolutely vary for each hotel. If you are looking for, a specific budget recommendation and anyone is interested in running paid media with Vizergy, once we kind of enter that discovery process with you as a prospective client, we ask those types of questions to provide a consultative approach and to provide a comprehensive spend plan for your hotel should you choose to continue with Vizergy. So that is a feature that we could do for you if anyone is interested in paid media services with Vizergy.
Yeah, and you definitely did a great job of hitting the nail on the head with the budget recommendations. That really is such a tough question and one that we get really frequently. If there was a blanket number we could give you, we absolutely would.
Yeah.
But there are just so many different factors that come into play when it comes to what you should spend for your business.
Right.
And as Anna mentioned, we would be more than happy to have those kinds of conversations with you should you be interested in running paid media. And actually, one of the questions in our chat here was somebody asking what a first meeting would be like for somebody who is interested in starting paid media. So if they wanted to get a proposed budget for you, what kind of information would you be looking for from them in order to get something that would be accurate for their property?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great question. That kind of initial conversation would typically be with someone from our sales team and then someone in addition to someone from our paid media team. And I kind of ran through some of the questions that we would ask, like, what types of campaigns are you thinking about running? Have you run any in the past and where have you seen success? We have some hotels where wedding blocks drive a significant portion of their revenue. So, or meeting, if you have a lot of meetings and events business. So really just understanding what are your biggest revenue drivers for you as a property, and then how do we translate that into our digital plan? I think that's a part of the conversation. That conversation would look like discussing your need periods, discussing your occupancy, for the next 3 months. That would be, understanding what your ADR is, So there's a lot of different questions. It would basically be a question and answer session to learn your business and understand how we can best support that with digital advertising. We really want to get to know you as a client. I always say you are the expert on your property and we are the digital marketing experts. And once you kind of marry that together, that's when we have a winning strategy. So it really truly is a partnership. And we love working with all of our clients very closely to get to know them on a very intimate level as far as what drives their business. And then we take that and translate it into a media plan and a budget recommendation. So that initial conversation is just kind of really a discovery call where we can learn how we can best support you through digital means.
Awesome. Another question here. So for paid search strategy, do you recommend focusing on branded or unbranded for the campaigns?
That is a good question. I hate to say it depends.
Another great answer.
Yeah. Let me think about that. Branded or unbranded? I mean, typically we see higher click-through rate, higher return on ad spend from branded campaigns. That being said, I have worked with some properties that don't want to bid as heavily on their brand campaigns because, their name is, they think that people are going to book, like if they're looking for their hotel, they think that they're going to book through them directly, usually through an organic search method. Like if I already know your hotel's name, I don't need to advertise on my brand terms because I'm going to find you organically. That's assuming you have a good organic ranking, which is why SEO is important. If you don't have a good organic ranking, I would say that bidding on brand terms would be crucial because SEO takes a long time. And if you're not at the top of the search, the ad is kind of a way to put yourself up at the top of the search by a paid means. So you at least have that page one presence. And you can, if someone's searching for your brand, you want them to book direct. You don't want them to typically book through an OTA. Sorry to our OTA friends on the call. But if someone is aware of your brand and searching for you, it's kind of like an insurance policy, bidding on your own brand terms to make sure that they book direct through your website. So we typically see higher ROI with branded campaigns. Prospecting is a lot of what we do for a lot of hotels. Prospecting also these days includes searches like hotels near me, or point of interest. Say you're a hotel located near an arena and you want to bid for a business that's coming in for like a sports team to the arena. So point of interest campaigns and demand generators also kind of fall into prospecting. So I'd say prospecting is, I don't want to say more of what we do, but we do a lot of prospecting. So I would say, I guess if I had to boil it down, it's not one or the other. It's probably both that are going to be best to focus on for search. If you have to choose one, I would say it depends on what your other marketing efforts look like, what your SEO looks like. Like I said, if you're at the top of page one organically, then you may not need to bid as heavily on branded ads. But if you're not, then I would say that would be more important. Prospecting is always important because it drives people into your funnel. And as many people as may be aware of your brand, you always need to expose your brand to new people. So prospecting is always a worthwhile effort. So gosh, I don't think I'm going to pick one over the other. I'm going to say it depends, and a good strategy should probably include both. So hopefully I answered your question.
That's a great answer. And I probably would have said the same thing, to be honest. Definitely should include both. But it would absolutely vary on how your other campaigns are performing.
Absolutely.
For sure. There's a question here that goes back to the case study. So if the previous campaign had a 0 return, where did you get the keywords that you said performed well? Were they from any other campaigns or just from the previous campaign? How were you able to determine those?
So the previous campaign had Zero ROI, I believe, was in the last 6 months of 2023. There were some keywords that had performed in like Q1, Q2 of 2023. So the hotel was able to provide us that information for all of 2023. So I think when I pulled that zero ROI, I was looking at the last 6 months of 2023, Q3 and Q4. So there were some keywords in Q1 and Q2 that had driven some revenue, and we use those to incorporate in the campaign.
Perfect. All right. Well, we have definitely covered all the questions that have shown up in the chat. So I know we've got 9 minutes left on our time. So see if any others come in during that time. But yeah, definitely some great questions. A lot of great information you covered today, Anna. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
If anybody
absolutely.
has any more questions, let them feel free to let them
Yeah.
loose in the chat, and we'll get them answered. If not, we have very much enjoyed you all joining us today. And again, thank you, Anna, for presenting. This was a lot of great information. Thank you to HSMAI South Florida chapter for helping us host this today. And we really hope that you guys learned a lot, and we can see you next week for our fourth and final installment of our digital marketing lunch and learn series. We'll be talking website data and analytics with our Vice President of IT, Kyle. So he will be our host next week. So be sure to join us. Thank you guys again so much, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks everyone so much. Good to spend this time with you. All righty. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.